All right, everybody, welcome back to Lantern TV Sports Basketball Show. I'm your host, Kevin Lapka, alongside Kari Lawrence and KC Smith, my two fellas as usual. We're going to preview two games upcoming for Ohio State against Iowa Saturday at 2:30, and then Monday against Indiana at home at 7 o'clock. We're going to start with this Iowa game, though. This is a talented Iowa team, Casey. Offensively, they rank number one in team points per game in the Big Ten Conference. You know Keegan Murray, the best scorer in the Big Ten. What do you expect from this game? Because this is an Iowa team that, they've got veteran presence. They're going to fight. Is this a game where you think Ohio State falters? Do they come out to play on Saturday? What do you like in this game? What scares you? What excites you for Ohio State?
Yeah, Kevin. Iowa, they won their third consecutive game against Nebraska, 98-75. And in the last two games, get this, they've scored 208 points. That's like NBA level numbers,
yeah.
like on the bottom end, because NBA, they're scoring 130, 140. It's ridiculous in today's game. But like you said, Keegan Murray, Big Ten leading scorer, he posted a career-high 37 points in that game. And that's sort of Iowa's MO. He's an athletic 6'8" forward, but he's not just playing down in the post. He's able to stretch out, bang some threes. He's first in the Big Ten, 23.8 points per game, third with 8.4 rebounds per game, fourth with 2 blocks a game. So he's sort of Iowa's E.J. Liddell, if you will, just a sort of do-it-all man for Iowa's offense that ranks first in the Big Ten with 84 points per game. They are 18th in the Ken Pomeroy adjusted efficiency metric, one spot behind Ohio State. That's the closest since I've been talking about this that any other opposing team has been. Quad 1 games for Iowa, they're 0-6 this year. I don't know. It could be something about the bright lights that they fold, but Ohio State in Quad 1 games, they're 4-5 because Iowa's 19th in the net. But I expect sort of a shootout on Saturday, sort of in this rescheduled game due to inclement weather here in Columbus. We're getting some now, but it won't be canceled. I can assure you that. This rescheduled game, I expect to be, probably in the 80s at least for both teams. It's going to be running the floor, very fast, ACC-style basketball, if you will.
Yeah, Kari, what do you expect from this one?
I honestly think it's going to be a competitive game, Kevin. I just think like Casey said, keep an eye on Kevin Murray. I think he's one of Iowa's best star players. I mean, like Casey said again, he averaging 37 points versus the Nebraska game. So I think the Buckeyes have to pay strong defense on that kid.
He's the number one guy you have to stop. I mean, you look defensively for Iowa, though. They rank 13th in the Big Ten in points allowed, but what they're really good at is getting turnovers. I mean, they're number one in turnover margin in the Big Ten by a large margin. I think they're at plus 5.38 in the next. I don't know who's next, but they're at 4.2. That's a big gap between 1 and 2. And Ohio State, something we talked about early on in the year, was their ability to take care of the basketball. And there was a lot of games where they were sloppy early on in the year, and that was a concern for us when we did our earlier preview shows about what does this team need to do to compete, especially come in these big games. Although these aren't ranked opponents coming up, Iowa and Indiana, these are big games where you have to make a statement against teams that are competitive and teams that can win any given day. So they're going to have to take care of the basketball if they want to get a win against Iowa for sure.
Yeah, for sure, Kevin. And Ohio State, like you mentioned, they had turnover issues earlier in the year. Most likely 10, 15, upwards of 15 in a game. But they kind of curtailed that in the recent stretch. Mm-hmm. You saw those numbers start to creep up against Minnesota where they turned it over 7 times in a 6-minute, 49-second stretch. It was insane when they were on that scoring drought. But they only turned it over just a few times later after that, and I'm pretty sure they only finished with 8, maybe 10 for the first time in double digits in probably about 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, so take care of the basketball. Jamar Wheeler up top. He's going to take the basketball away. He's got to take care of it as well. We're going to preview this Indiana game, though, as well. This is a team that Ohio State lost to early in the year by a large margin. It was 67-51 at Assembly Hall. They get a chance to get some revenge against Indiana, the Hoosiers at home at Value City Arena on Monday at 7 o'clock. So this Indiana team, we know they have Trayce Jackson-Davis. We know they have some firepower. We know they have guys that can play, and they're a quality team that, like Iowa, I think can win any given day. Although they're not a ranked opponent, it's a talented team. That's what you get when you play in a conference like the Big Ten. So what are you expecting from Indiana coming in here? And does that Ohio State have that last game on their mind, knowing the way that Indiana, kind of conquered them at home? Now you get a chance to do this at Value City Arena against a team, again, another statement type game. How do you think they come out?
I don't think that game matters at all, Kevin. You got to take it one game at a time.
Flush it, as they used to say.
Exactly.
Right?
Take it one game at a time, one play at a time. I'll hammer all the cliches, But as you alluded to, that last game at Assembly Hall, Ohio State, they scored a season low 51 points, and they couldn't stop Trayce Jackson-Davis. It was his show. He accounted for 40.3% of the Hoosiers' 67 points. He scored 27 that game. That's just pretty much par for the course for TJD. I was reading some Indiana message boards, some tweets, whatever. He needs some help because, at the top of the offense, Trayce Jackson-Davis averaging 18 points per game and 8.3 rebounds per game. But Race Thompson, I know Rob Finney, he was a folklore hero in that upset victory over Purdue. But guys like that, they need to step up and really provide sort of a boost for this Indiana offense. But I don't think that last game matters at all because the big difference, now Indiana has to come on the road and come to Value City Arena. It's not the best college basketball environment. But Ohio State, they made the most of it. You don't have to go on the road and travel. You get the long bus rides. They're 11-0 at home. So I expect them, I'd say, to sweep this two-game stretch and go for the 3-0 perfect record in this three-game homestand.
Let it be known that Casey does his pregame research on the opposing team's message boards. That's how he's finding out about the other teams. But Kari, what do you look at Indiana that scares you or makes you excited a little bit about this game?
I just think the defense got to be strong. Like, Ohio State can't play soft in the first half. They got to completely go throughout. They got to play throughout the whole game. So I think strong defense, and they got to keep an eye on Davis too. He averaged 30 points against Wisconsin the last game. So I just think they got to put the pressure.
And that's something we've seen all year, right? Not just recently. That's something we talked about early on in the year, is playing a complete game. I think they got to do more of that.
Yeah, for sure. And complete game. You mentioned in Kari, 30 points for Trayce Jackson-Davis, but they falter down the stretch. It's sort of very similar to the way Ohio State could not close out at the rack, if you will, Jersey Mike's Arena over at Rutgers.
You wanted to slip that in any way you could.
Yeah, exactly. But they allowed Wisconsin to end the game on an 8-0 run in the final minute 40 seconds. And Trayce Jackson-Davis, he put up his numbers. He scored 30. But they allowed Wisconsin's Johnny Davis, who is one of the smoothest players in the Big Ten, to also score 30. And then Brad Davidson on top of that to score 21. So if you're doing the numbers there, that's 51 points just from two guys for Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Aside from Trayce Jackson-Davis, the next highest score for Indiana in that game was 13. So they just need more contributions from other guys, and especially like you were mentioning, to be able to close out the game. And you score just maybe a couple buckets there, you ride off into the sunset, big victory over Wisconsin at home. Instead, you're just left scratching your head.
They've done that, though. They had a big win against Purdue just a few weeks ago or a week ago. They are capable of winning those games, and they're capable of coming out and winning any given day, and that's why I've said that multiple times. So, although people and, the casual fans per se will look at the schedule for Ohio State and see these upcoming games, Iowa and Indiana, and they won't see a number ranking next to them, and they'll think, well, that should be immediately 2 victories, and those victories don't mean much because they're not ranked. When you get into this point of the season, and when you're in a conference as good as the Big Ten, these wins matter against teams that necessarily don't have that number next to them on the website. These are important wins, and these are teams that are good basketball teams when they're playing at their highest level. So can't take them for granted, and that's something we said all year. They got to play a complete game of basketball, like Kari mentioned. They didn't necessarily do that the last game against Minnesota. Still came away with a huge 25-point win in the end of it. Outscored them 40 to 47-20 or something crazy like that in the second half. But got to see a full game basketball for the Ohio State Buckeyes. They got 2 upcoming against 2 talented Big Ten opponents, and we'll be there here at Lantern TV covering that with the highlights, myself and Casey with those. And Kari will be back next time for another preview next week. So that'll do it for myself, Kevin, Casey, and Kari for Lantern TV Sports Basketball Show. We'll see you next time. Take care.